I used to joke about it. I guess I'm just getting clumsy in my old age. At 67, I figured it was normal. Bumping into the corner of the kitchen counter, misjudging a step going down to the garage, feeling slightly unsteady getting out of the shower in the morning. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that stopped me from doing what I needed to do. Just small things, subtle things. The kind of things you laugh off and move on from. My name is Robert, and for almost 2 years, I treated those small things as background noise. But then I started noticing something I couldn't quite explain. I couldn't feel the floor the same way anymore. Walking barefoot in the kitchen, something I'd done every morning of my adult life, felt different. Dull. Like my feet were wrapped in thin socks, even when they weren't. Sometimes there was tingling in my toes. Sometimes a strange buzzing sensation that would come and go. Sometimes just numbness. A quiet absence of feeling where feeling used to be. But no sharp pain. Nothing that made me stop what I was doing and say, "This is serious." So I ignored it. The way most of us ignore things that don't hurt badly enough to demand attention. Until the day I almost fell going down my own stairs. I'd taken those stairs 10,000 times. I know every one of them. But that morning, my foot didn't land where my brain told it to. My body shifted. My hand grabbed the railing just in time. I stood there at the bottom of the stairs for a moment. Heart going, telling myself it was nothing, but I knew it wasn't nothing. I went to see my doctor that week, told him everything. The clumsiness, the dull feet, the tingling, the near fall on the stairs. He listened carefully. Did some simple tests, pressing on different parts of my feet, checking my reflexes, asking me to stand with my eyes closed. And then he said something I haven't forgotten. "Robert, this isn't clumsiness. This is loss of nerve sensitivity." He explained that the tiny nerve fibers in our feet, the ones responsible not just for sensation, but for balance, for spatial awareness, for knowing where our body is in space, depend on consistent blood flow and oxygen to stay healthy. And after 60, that delivery system becomes less reliable. Circulation to the extremities slows. The small vessels that feed peripheral nerve endings narrow and stiffen. Oxygen delivery drops. And the nerve fibers that once gave us precise, instant feedback about every surface we stood on, they begin to lose their sensitivity. Not dramatically, not overnight, gradually, quietly, the way the volume on a radio turns down so slowly that you don't notice until the room is almost silent. That's when I realized those 2 years of small moments, the bumped furniture, the misjudged steps, the dull sensation under my feet, weren't random. They were a pattern, a progression, and I had been reading it as clumsiness when it was actually my nervous system asking for help. I want to talk about the early warning signs today, the ones I missed, the ones most people miss, because they don't look the way we expect nerve problems to look. The first sign is what I'd describe as reduced ground feedback. When your peripheral nerves are healthy, your feet give your brain a constant stream of detailed information. The texture of the floor, the angle of the surface, the slight shifts in pressure as your weight moves. That information is what your brain uses in real time, without you thinking about it, to keep you balanced and steady. When nerve sensitivity starts to decline, that stream of information becomes less detailed, less reliable. Your brain is working with a lower resolution signal, and the result isn't sharp pain. It's that dull, wrapped in socks feeling, that sense that the ground is slightly further away than it should be. Most people assume that if nerve damage were happening, it would hurt. But in the early stages, it often doesn't. It just feels like less. The second warning sign is intermittent tingling or buzzing, especially in the toes and the ball of the foot. This is the nerve attempting to fire correctly, but not quite getting there, like an electrical connection that's partially loose. It comes and goes. It's easy to dismiss, but it's not random. It's the nerve signaling that something in its environment has changed. The third sign, and this is the one that finally got my attention, is subtle balance disruption. Most people think balance problems originate in the inner ear, and sometimes they do. But a significant and underappreciated cause of balance difficulty, particularly in adults over 60, is what neurologists call proprioceptive decline. Proprioception is your body's ability to sense its own position in space, to know, without looking, where your foot is, how it's angled, how much pressure it's carrying. That sense lives in your peripheral nerves, and when those nerves lose sensitivity, proprioception suffers directly. You start misjudging steps. You feel unsteady on uneven surfaces. You reach for walls or counters without quite knowing why, and you chalk it up to getting older. But it isn't age. It's nerve sensitivity. And those are very different things. Here's what makes this particularly important to understand. Proprioceptive decline doesn't announce itself loudly. It creeps in through small moments. A near miss on the stairs, a stumble on a curb, a second of instability getting out of a chair. Each one is easy to explain away. Taken together, they tell a different story. And the longer that story goes unaddressed, the more the nerve tissue is allowed to continue deteriorating in an environment that isn't supporting it. Because here's the reality about peripheral nerve health after 60. The nerves themselves have some capacity to repair and regenerate, but that capacity depends entirely on the environment around them. They need oxygen. They need consistent microcirculation. They need protection from the chronic inflammation that increases naturally with age. And they need specific nutrients that most people over 60 are significantly deficient in. When those conditions aren't met, the repair process slows to a fraction of what it should be. Damage accumulates faster than it can be corrected. And what starts as dull feet and occasional tingling can progress into something that affects your independence in serious ways. A fall at 67 is not the same as a fall at 40. The consequences, fractures, hospitalizations, extended recovery, are real and life-altering. So when I finally understood what was actually happening, I stopped joking about being clumsy, and I started taking it seriously. I want to pause here for a moment, because this is where my story changed direction. After my doctor explained what was happening, he gave me some general advice. Stay active, watch my step, come back if it gets worse. Standard guidance, careful and responsible. But it didn't give me anything to actually do about the nerve sensitivity itself, about the underlying environment that was allowing the damage to continue. So I started researching, and after months of reading, neurology journals, clinical studies, research on peripheral nerve health in aging adults, I found something that finally made sense of everything I'd been learning. A specific method for supporting nerve health from the inside out. Not a medication, not a treatment. A structured, evidence-based approach to giving aging nerve tissue what the research consistently says it needs. I'll share the details of that method in a moment, and I've left everything in the description below this video for you to look through at your own pace. But first, let me explain what the research pointed to, because understanding it is what gave me confidence to try it. There are 3 things your peripheral nerves need consistently at adequate levels to maintain sensitivity and support their own repair. The first is microcirculation support. The capillaries that feed your nerve endings are extraordinarily small, and they're the first vessels to be affected when circulation efficiency drops with age. When those capillaries are narrowed or stiff, nerve endings in the feet and lower legs receive less oxygen than they need. Sensitivity declines, proprioception suffers, and the nerve's ability to repair itself is compromised at the most fundamental level. Compounds that support nitric oxide production, the mechanism by which blood vessels relax and open, are central to restoring adequate microcirculation to peripheral nerve tissue. The second is mitochondrial and cellular energy support. Nerve cells are metabolically demanding. They require enormous amounts of cellular energy to maintain their function and carry out repairs. CoQ10, acetyl L-carnitine, and B vitamins in their most bioavailable forms, work together to support the energy production processes inside nerve cells. Without adequate levels of these nutrients, and most adults over 60 are deficient in at least one, the nerve's repair capacity is severely limited. The third is direct nerve fiber protection. Alpha-lipoic acid remains one of the most consistently studied compounds in peripheral neuropathy research. Its ability to cross the blood-nerve barrier, to actually reach the nerve tissue and provide antioxidant protection from within, makes it uniquely valuable. Combined with anti-inflammatory support that reduces the chronic, low-grade inflammation attacking nerve insulation. These compounds create the conditions the nerve needs to stabilize and begin recovering sensitivity. This is what the method I found was built around. These three pillars working together consistently. And I want to tell you what happened when I committed to it. The first changes were subtle. By the third week, I noticed the buzzing sensation in my toes had become less constant, less present. By week 5, I was aware of something that's hard to describe, a slight increase in what I felt under my feet when I walked barefoot. Not dramatic, but there. By week 8, I realized I had gone down my stairs 3 times that morning without once thinking about it, without hesitating, without bracing. The feeling of the floor came back, gradually, unevenly, but it came back. I'm not going to tell you the sensitivity is exactly what it was at 50. I'm 67. I have realistic expectations, but I am steadier than I was. The tingling is quieter. The dull, wrapped-in-socks feeling is significantly reduced, and I don't reach for the wall when I get out of the shower anymore. Those changes matter to me in ways that are hard to overstate, because it isn't just about comfort. It's about confidence. It's about walking through my own house without a quiet fear in the back of my mind. It's about independence. So let me speak to you directly now. If you've been having small moments, bumped furniture, misjudged steps, feet that feel slightly numb or dull, tingling that comes and goes, please don't dismiss them. Not because I want to alarm you, but because the earlier you address the nerve environment, the more your nerve tissue has to work with. Peripheral nerves can be supported. Sensitivity can be improved. The conditions that are allowing the damage to continue can be changed, but that doesn't happen on its own, and it doesn't happen by waiting. The method I used, the specific approach to nerve support that finally made a real difference in my steadiness, my sensitivity, and my confidence, is detailed in the description below this video. It's based entirely on clinically studied compounds, formulated for aging nerve tissue, designed to address the root conditions driving peripheral nerve decline. Read through it, look up the ingredients, come to your own conclusion. I'd rather you investigate it thoroughly than take anything on my word. But if what I described today sounds like your life, the small stumbles, the dull feet, the moments of unsteadiness you've been calling clumsiness, please take those moments seriously. Your nerve health is worth protecting. Your steadiness is worth protecting. Your independence is worth protecting. My name is Robert. I'm 67 years old, and I'm not clumsy. I just needed to give my nerves what they were asking for. The method that helped me do that is in the description below.